Okay, can I call, oh, a bit loud. Can I call you all to order, please? We've got quite a few things we want to get through in this half hour to open the conference, so I'm going to be keeping strictly to time. For those of you who don't know, I'm Felicity Wikeley. I'm the chair of the BERA Conference Committee. I will be around all the time, so please make yourselves known, and welcome to BERA 2015 and to Queen's University, Belfast. We were last here in 1998. BERA and the city have changed a lot since then, but hopefully you will find this week, your experience this week, you will find both Belfast and the conference stimulating and exciting. Before I hand over to Ian Menter to do the nice things of the open the conference formally, I have a few domestic arrangements I would like to announce. You will notice you have all been given an A4 programme. All the sessions and the rooms are listed and colour-coded in the programme. Use it with your A5 programme. You'll find I'm sure you've worked this out for yourselves. You're all academics, so you must be clever. But we've got your map, which you can tear out and carry if you don't want to carry the book around. The buildings are colour-coded as well, so you should be able to find where you need to go. If you don't, we have students with red sashes who are local to this institution and therefore will be able to point you in the right direction. We also have some wonderful new signs, so just keep looking and you will find your way. Your badge also has a summary on the back of the main parts of the programme. Any amendments to the programme will be listed on the door of the rooms and also on the lecterns inside, or the tables inside, for the chairs to know what's been changed. At the end of the conference, feel free to return your programmes, your hard copy programmes, to the registration desks and we will recycle them. A few more exciting announcements. Today at lunchtime, you'll see from the stands at the back of the room, we're having a SIG fair. For those of you who perhaps are new to this world, SIG stands for Special Interest Group. If you don't belong to any of the SIGs, come along and find out what they do and how you can be part of a smaller community within the large BERA community. If you do belong to a SIG but don't know what the other SIGs do, come along anyway. Later in the day, the SIGs will be having their own forum meetings. Where each meeting takes place is listed in your programme. And whilst those are happening, there will be a reception in here for those of you who have blue badges who are not members of BERA. This is your opportunity to mingle with council members and perhaps be persuaded to become BERA members. One fairly important thing I want to mention. Quite a few of us here were at the European Conference for Educational Research last week in Budapest. And they passed a motion, there was a call for local and national research associations to consider how the educational research community responds to the refugee crisis. Obviously, it was very visible for us in Budapest, but we felt that at the AGM last night, there was a move to hold an open meeting, a moot, to discuss our moral responsibility as educational researchers to do something. This moot will happen in this hall on Wednesday lunchtime. There will be lunches available in the hall for those of you who wish to come. And in addition, you might find that your SIG, or if you're going to a SIG meeting this afternoon, the SIG conveners, if they feel it's appropriate, or you could bring it up yourself, if you want to have more discussion in a smaller group, that can happen in the SIG meetings this afternoon, and then the outcomes of that can be brought to the moot on Wednesday. There is also a blog spot on our Twitter feed, and the hashtag will be on one of the slides later on, which is the ESA blogspot. So please look at that and respond if you need to or you want to. Please do. There is a welcome reception this evening in here, I think, or is it next door? It's both, probably. And on your badge, for those of you going to the Titanic dinner, there will be, it tells you where the buses will pick you up. The buses are going from here, and they're going from the Europa Hotel, and there will be, on your badge, there will be, or on your ticket, it tells you where you're going to be picked up. I've been asked to mention, I know some people are having a few difficulties connecting to Wi-Fi. The easiest one is to use is the cloud. Some of you may be able to connect it to EduRoam if you have, but sometimes there is some difficulty. But the cloud is working. I promise I have done it. Very domestic stuff. There are toilets in each of the buildings. For safety, in case of a fire, our lovely students with the red sashes will leap into action and make sure you are all safely evacuated. Bit of fun. In your bag, you will find a thing called Passport to Prizes. It lists a few questions you need to find out. It's to get you round the conference and make sure you engage fully. There are amazing prizes, I have been told. But please, at the same time, we are very ably supported by our exhibitors. They are in the next hall, and they would love to see you. Coffee is being served in there, some lunches will be served in there. Please make time to go and talk to them, because they do support us very well, and they need your support in terms of visiting. Before I hand over to Ian, I just want to say from the conference committee, please enjoy the conference. This is the first time we've run it completely in-house for a very long time. I'm sure there will be hiccups, but we need to know about them, but in a nice way. We're doing our best, and we will work very hard to make it a very enjoyable conference for you. Ian.
Thanks very much, Felicity. And I, as the outgoing president of BERA, now vice president, we handed over last night at our annual general meeting, and Gemma Moss, whose presidential address will be on the programme later today, has officially taken over as BERA president, but it's my last pleasurable duty to welcome you to this year's conference. And I'd like to start by thanking Felicity, her committee, and particularly the staff in the BERA office for the amazing work they've done to get this show on the road under our own auspices for the first time for many years. I think we're going to have a wonderful, exciting conference that's full of innovative sessions, including some school visits which already started, and the presidential address, which I've already mentioned, will take place later today. As Felicity mentioned, we may be thinking during this conference of 2 or 3 major issues going on around us. She mentioned the situation in Budapest and the migration across Europe that is happening at the moment. Here in Belfast, the continuing challenges of establishing a stable democratic government. And some of our overseas visitors saw a little bit of turbulence. I'm thinking of the Australians yesterday, a sudden change of Prime Minister. So there's a lot going on out there in the wider political world, and I think some of that may have significance for us here. And those of you who want to reflect and write about those kinds of issues, we do now have a very successful BERA blog to which you can submit pieces. Before moving on to other business, though, I do want to just thank everybody who's been involved in planning and submitting for the conference. We got a fantastic program and lovely paperwork to support it. The material in your bag, I think, is very clear. Remind those of you that are BERA members, this is our conference, so we make it work, please. And those of you who are not BERA members, I ask you, why are you not? And ask you to join that session later on and find out what's in it for you. So I have a few remarks to make about our 41st year. Earlier this year, we saw the results of the Research Excellence Framework across the UK, and as you will have seen in Research Intelligence, we are very pleased to have established educational research as a strong member of the social science community. There are issues and challenges which we seek to address around differentiation within the community, and BERA is very aware of those, but the main message from the REF was that educational research in the UK is mature, it's excellent, and it's world-leading, and that's good news. There are challenges. We set up an observatory to look at some of the demographic and financial challenges in the educational research world in the UK, and that is being made available to all our members. We published earlier this year a fantastic document, Fair and Equal Education, which was the production from 6 of our special interest groups, and we had an event to launch that earlier this year. We continued to work on the BERA RSA Research and Teacher Education Inquiry, which has been increasingly influential in a number of communities, policy and practice communities, both within the UK and beyond. And then we launched the BERA blog, which is really taking off extremely well. Looking ahead into the rest of this year and next year, we've advertised some research commissions. I hope you've seen that as a deadline on the 2nd of October, a new initiative to encourage BERA members and others to launch new initiatives with our support, a whole range of special interest group events, many of those, and thanks again to SIG conveners for their endeavours, imagination, commitment in putting those very important events on. We're at the beginnings of working with the Academy for Social Sciences in writing a Making the Case for Educational Research document, which should appear in a few months' time. We're currently in the process of editing, in collaboration with SAGE, a handbook of educational research. And when you come to hear Gemma Moss's inaugural presidential lecture later on, you'll hear about an exciting new range of seminars, roundtables that will be taking place over the months ahead. So we have 3 awards to make in this session. There are more awards later in the week, but the first 2 awards are the John Nisbet Fellowships. We introduced these last year in commemoration of the founding president of BERA, John Nisbet. And last year we awarded it's a recognition of a lifetime contribution to educational research, and we awarded them last year to Kathy Silver and Paul Black. This year, I'm very delighted to announce the award being made to two former BERA presidents, Patricia Broadfoot and Sarah Delamont, and both of them, I'm delighted to say, are here to receive their award today. I'd like to say a few words first about Patricia Broadfoot. Tricia actually worked with John Nisbet. Those of you who were there in Sussex 2 years ago may remember that I waved this book, The Impact of Research on Policy and Practice in Education, John Nisbet and Patricia Broadfoot. It's, impact wasn't invented for the REF, it's been around a long time. And that's one of the contributions that Tricia made early in her career. She worked for 4 years at the Scottish Council for Research in Education and then took a post at what was then Westhill College in Birmingham. She became BERA president in 1997, and her address then was called Educational Research, 2 Cultures and 3 Estates. She's particularly known for her work exploring the sociology of assessment. Another visual aid off my shelves from my early days as a lecturer is the book in this Methuen series, Assessment, Schools and Society. One of the first very clear sociological deconstructions of assessment issues. She also became a member of the influential Assessment Reform Group, which has been very closely allied with BERA. More recently, I've become aware, others will be aware, of her work on teachers and teachers' work, including a strong element of comparative study, including comparisons of English and French teachers. She spent many years working at the University of Bristol, including working on the ESRC project PACE, which, if I recall, stands for Pupils Assessment, Curriculum and Experience, a post-Education Reform Act study, and then went on to head the School of Education at Bristol, became Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, and also became a Pro-Vice Chancellor. She was awarded a CBE in 2006 and became Vice Chancellor at the University of Gloucestershire. She's now, I think, more retired than that impressive CV would indicate, but she's still getting up to some interesting work, including being part of the Review Board of Initial Teacher Education here in Northern Ireland. And her current interests include the application of technologies in assessment and also the impact of Quaker schooling. So she continues to publish actively and to advise policymakers and others. And it's with great pleasure that we award Patricia Broadfoot one of this year's John Nisbet Fellowships. Patricia. I've asked Patricia to say a few words.
Thank you. I'm actually quite moved, not only by receiving this award, which you can imagine is a huge honour, but actually remembering John Nisbet and what he did for me as a young researcher, as a mentor to help me, as you've heard, in my career. And I feel he's here with us in spirit today. But it also reminds me from your previous slide, Ian, 41 years of BERA, and I was there at the beginning, at the first meeting where the idea of BERA was conceived. It makes me feel terribly old, I have to say. But it's wonderful to see so many of you here at this conference, to know that BERA is thriving and it has a huge role to play in tackling so many challenges, both in education policy and practice in this country, but also internationally and increasingly in collaboration with other social scientists and indeed people from other disciplines, things like sustainability and whole new agendas which are so important for our future. But I can't finish my few words without saying that all the achievements that you've heard Ian mention were not achieved by me on my own. They were achieved by me working with a whole raft of different colleagues over the course of my career. And it's an opportunity today for me to thank all those people. Most of them are not here. Some of them are dead, sadly. But it's very much a collaborative project doing educational research. I've been hugely fortunate in my colleagues, both in UK and internationally, and I hope all of you will be similarly fortunate so that one day, some of you at least, will be standing here receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you so much, BERA, and bonne chance for the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tricia. Secondly, then, Sarah Delamont. Sarah became the first woman president of BERA in 1983. And she's been followed, interestingly, by a large number of women since then. Her presidential address was actually called A Woman's Place in Education, Myths, Monsters and Misapprehensions. I think Sarah does like alliterations. She has had strong interest in a number of substantive areas of educational research. Again, just pulling a couple of examples off my own bookshelves, in the same series as it happens as Tricia's book, there's the second edition of Interaction in the Classroom. There is Sex Roles and the School, just two examples of the work that she did early on in her career. She's known as an ethnographer. Her first degree actually was in social anthropology, and she did her doctorate in Edinburgh. It's interesting that both our awardees have Scottish connections. And she's published widely on methods as well as on the substance of her research. She's been very influential in the development of doctoral provision in education. Her early working days were spent at Leicester, but she's now spent many years at the University of Cardiff, and she was in fact the first woman dean of social sciences there in the 1980s. She's written an autobiography called Milkshakes and Convertibles, which you'll have to Google and look up if you want to get behind that title. And her current research work is, and I hope I get the pronunciation right, it's on the habitus of diasporic capoeira, which if you don't know what capoeira is, she'll tell you. But she's also still very active in BERA, and if you look at the BERA blog, you'll find a really provocative piece from Sarah. So, Sarah, thanks for all you've done for BERA over the years, and many congratulations on this award.
Thank you. I promised I would be very brief, which those of you who know me won't believe for a minute, but I did mean it. I'm absolutely delighted to receive this award. I'm very grateful to BERA. I'm particularly proud of the link to John Nisbet, who was both intellectually incisive and great company. I didn't work with him as Trish did, but of course if you were a student in Scotland, he was particularly important. Those of you too young to have known him in his prime missed a lot. I wasn't part of the group that actually set BERA up, but I was one of the 100 people invited to be the founder members, and I'm very proud of that. And I have paid a subscription every year since. The other thing I would say is I've still got my BERA stick pin. And I got it out of my box to bring it to this event. And I realised that I don't actually know when they were issued or who to. And yesterday, neither Ian nor Gemma had ever seen one. They didn't know they existed. I think they were given out at the 20th BERA conference to all the past presidents still alive then, which wasn't all of them, because tragically we lost Lawrence Stenhouse and Bruce Chopin early. But if anybody does know when they were given out and who to, I'd love to hear from them. Capoeira is a Brazilian dance and martial art. It's the only martial art done to music. I've been studying it with a much younger colleague who actually does it. Those of you looking at me wouldn't think I could. We've been doing a two-handed ethnography of it. And we've been studying how it's taught and learnt in the UK, including in places like Belfast. There'll be a group in your university or in the city where you live. And I think it's a particularly interesting thing to study because the teachers have to be charismatic or they don't eat. They have to recruit students and retain them, and those students have to pay for a lesson every time they have one. And if the teachers don't keep their students, they starve. And I think that's particularly interesting, and it's very interesting for studying things like masculinity, performativity, embodiment, habitus, legitimate peripheral participation, and I think it's a fascinating educational context. And I've had great fun studying it, and I intend to go on doing so. And I'm very, very grateful to all of you, and like Trish, all the people I've worked with, including people like Maurice Galton, who's not here, have helped me build my career, and I do hope all of you are as lucky as I've been to work with really clever and exciting people all your careers.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations to you. The other award we're making for the first time is a new award supported by Sage Publishers, a Public Impact Award. And this is going to Robin Alexander this year, who, as many of you will know, has led the Cambridge Primary Review and the Cambridge Primary Review Trust. Now, Robin can't be with us today because he's actually running workshops for primary teachers on the outcomes of the primary review. His nomination for this award came from an individual member of BERA, and that's something you can all be thinking about for the next round. That individual member drew attention to the national and international impact of the Cambridge Primary Review, and in particular to the trust that was set up to see through the implementation of key ideas. For those of you with a background or interest in primary education, you'll know how important his his research work has been, particularly that amazing book, Pedagogy and Culture, or Culture and Pedagogy. And his work in the Cambridge Primary Review has been offering a research-based alternative to some of the dominant ideologies that have affected primary education over recent years. So in his absence, I have great pleasure in announcing the award to Robin Alexander for the first time, and would like to ask you to join me in giving him a round of applause. Now, is this man in the house? Come on, Colin, you've tucked yourself away there so that you can't get out easily. So while I'm talking, would you kindly make your way forward? Many of you will know Colin mainly as the treasurer of BERA. We've managed to keep him in that position for 7 years, which seems quite a long time for any officer to undertake. But actually, he's much more than the BERA treasurer. He's an eminent social psychologist, and he's been a very long-standing part of the BERA fabric, if that doesn't make you sound too kind of solid, Colin. He's been a conference organizer in the past. He's been a member of council for many years. Indeed, he played a very significant part in setting up the BERA office in London. But most importantly, he's been a very sincere and wise source of counsel and advice for the association, both through the Executive Council, but also directly to his fellow officers. And of course, as those of you who were at the AGM yesterday know, he leaves our finances, hands them over to our new treasurer, Sean Hughes, in very good health. So Colin, we wish you very well for the future. You've made a fantastic contribution to BERA, and we've got something to help you watch the time go by over the years ahead.
Yes, obviously I had no idea this was going to happen, so I don't have a speech, but thank you very much indeed. This is much appreciated. I wish BERA well in my slightly more distant years, and good luck to all of you for the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Well, thank you very much, Colin, for all you've done. That more or less concludes this opening session, because I know we have another session, the proper session 1, starting almost immediately. There's a reminder there of all the benefits of BERA membership. There's a reminder there of all the voluntary effort and the partnerships that lie behind BERA and its conference, and BERA is much more than its conference. And there's a slide showing all of our sponsors and exhibitors to whom we are very grateful. If you want to follow the conference, well, there's Twitter pages, there's the hashtag, and we encourage you all to be live tweeting during sessions. So I hope you enjoy the conference. I hope you learn a lot from it, and look forward to interactions over the next 2 to 3 days at various receptions, as well as in all the actual sessions. So thank you and enjoy yourselves.